Scan the entire statue with ground-penetrating radar. A built-in transmitting antenna sends electromagnetic radio waves into the rock. Then a receiving antenna records the reflection of those waves. Any change in the rock formation shows up as variations in the return signal, giving the team a picture of the rock's internal structure, giving them the crucial data they'll need to keep this Buddha in one piece. There's just one problem. No one's ever radar scanned a 71-meter-tall stone statue.
We combine the past and the present techniques to solve the problem. We use the main rope to fix the horizontal position of the antenna. Then we use handheld ropes to change the vertical position of the antenna.
To get it right, they must literally scan the Buddha from head to toe. With the most dangerous part over, the team faces its next challenge: analyzing data no one's ever seen before. Geologist Chang Ning-sheng is responsible for deciphering the indecipherable.
We studied a lot of articles about the characteristics of weathered rock. We also collected a lot of information about cracks and other problems in tunnels. And we compared all these with the results from the giant Buddha.
Chan's hard work turns the raw data into a valuable resource that's revolutionized the science of sandstone restoration. It also reveals if the May 12th earthquake damaged the Buddha. The pictures don't look good.
We found a crack in the lower right leg.
When cracks also show up in the left leg, the team's anxiety grows. But after further analysis, Chang Ning-sheng and Peng Shiri come to the conclusion that the cracks are ancient and that the Sichuan earthquake hasn't damaged the Buddha. But that doesn't mean the Buddha's out of danger. The scans also revealed a very real threat: weathering, the constant erosion of the rock by the environment. In the scan, weathered layers show up as lower density, and there's plenty on view. Ironically, the same geological conditions that made a giant Buddha possible are also the greatest natural threat to its survival. Sandstone isn't solid rock. It's sand particles held together by a natural mortar made up of iron, potassium, sodium, and aluminum. The mortar acts like a living membrane, sucking in moisture from the environment when it's wet and exhaling it back out when it's dry. Over time, this constant contraction and expansion weakens the mortar holding the sandstone together. And the Lashan Buddha's sandstone is weaker than most. That's because the Buddha faces west into the afternoon sun. Afternoon sun warms the sandstone and it breathes out, releasing moisture. In the cooler evening, it breathes that moisture back in as it contracts. A never-ending cycle of wet and dry that's making the Buddha more and more vulnerable to wind and rain.
Look at this. It's the effect of weathering. The stone is coarse, and you can break it with your hands.
But there's an even more destructive force than the heat of the sun. Believe it or not, it's this. In Lashan's wet climate, plants thrive in the weathered rock. Their roots release acids that dissolve the sandstone's mortar, leaving the Buddha as vulnerable as sand on a dune.
Left alone for 10 years, this monument would be absolutely covered in vegetation, chiseling away at the sandstone.
There's only one way to combat this alarming threat. Some of the world's most extreme weeding. How has the Lashan Buddha survived all these natural enemies for 1,300 years? These holes on and around the Buddha hold the clue. As it turns out, Haitong understood the weakness of his building material and planned for its survival.
Our research shows that when the construction of the giant Buddha was completed, there was a building called the Giant Statue House covering the body of the Buddha.
Peng Shuri and his team have confirmed that the holes in the Buddha's chest are the foundation points for this massive building. As wide as the Buddha and 13 stories high, this epic structure shielded the Buddha from the drying effects of the sun. And without sunlight, no plants could grow. Haitong's genius doesn't stop there. The Buddha could also suffer from too much water, causing the sandstone to leak. So Haitong gave it its own drainage system, aqueducts that channeled excess water from the Buddha to the river. Experts believe these drains would also work in reverse. In ancient times, monks could have plugged the drains during dry spells to lock water in. Together, the drains in the giant statue house would have slowed down the weathering process. But all of Haitong's careful planning couldn't protect against one thing: history. About 700 years ago, Mongol invaders put the Buddha's protective armor to the torch, exposing the statue to its natural enemies of wind, sun, weeds, and rain. Now, for the first time, the radar scan has revealed how much damage the Buddha's suffered in the last 700 years. Unfortunately, the news isn't good.
There is a rather serious weathered layer across the entire surface. The worst weathered section is 5 meters thick.
The weathering damage is serious, and it's bound to get even worse. Unless the team can somehow fight back against the biggest threat of all: China's industrial might. A team of experts is racing to save the world's tallest stone Buddha. Most of the threats they battle fall from the sky as sunshine and rain. But today's mission is undersea warfare, a sonar scan searching for dangers that lurk below. Powerful river currents are eating away at the Buddha's foundations and undermining the viewing platform at its feet. In 2002, engineers discovered more than 10 cracks in the viewing platform, endangering the Buddha and its thousands of visitors. So they made the platform 200 square meters bigger. A concrete barrier against corrosive currents. But today, it's the Sichuan earthquake that has everybody worried. Upstream, the quake triggered landslides that made river water into lakes. If these lakes suddenly collapse, a huge volume of water will charge down the river, engulfing everything in its path. To face this liquid assault, the viewing platform must be in perfect condition, and no one knows if the earthquake damaged it. The sonar results are in, and everyone breathes a sigh of relief. There's no sign of damage from the earthquake, and the platform is holding up well against the force of the river. For now, the team can stop worrying about underwater danger. But there's plenty more danger to worry about. The biggest threat isn't under the river. It's across it. The city of Leshan. Like most of China, Leshan's population and industrial base are growing explosively, generating pollution that's conspiring with nature to attack the Buddha with chemical weapons it was never built to survive.
这个地方的年降雨量呢，大概是1300多个毫米。那么在这种降雨中
The annual rainfall is about 1,300 millimeters. Such high rainfall, plus many large factories in the area, produces acid rain, which is accelerating the erosion on the surface of the Buddha.
酸雨的加入呢，就使得大佛表面的侵蚀呢将会增强。
Acid rain and car exhaust both contain sulfites, one of sandstone's deadliest enemies. When sandstone sucks in pollution, the sulfites react with chemicals in the rock, creating crystals that crack open the sandstone. Those cracks allow more pollution to penetrate deeper into the rock, creating more crystals that open up more cracks that let in more pollution until the sandstone falls apart. To prevent that, Leshan's closing nearby factories, creating a pollution-free zone around the Buddha. With more money in their pockets, Chinese people are traveling like never before. On a quiet day, 3,000 people visit the Buddha. During a religious festival, that number skyrockets to 45,000. The most destructive threat from these thousands of visitors turns out to be the same thing that keeps them from slipping on the way down. Their shoes. Modern no-slip soles create friction between walking feet and sandstone, eroding the surface with every step. To help preserve the Buddha's surface, the teams commissioned a high-tech portrait, using a laser scanner to record an accurate image of the carved sandstone.
The 3D laser scanner is the most advanced measuring equipment, not just here in China, but in the world.
The high-definition scanner fires a laser beam at a phenomenal 500,000 times per second, measuring millions and millions of points all over the Buddha's surface, creating a virtual 3D copy of the Buddha that's accurate to the millimeter and reveals every curve, every wrinkle, and every ancient chisel mark. Details impossible to see with the human eye. The 3D laser portrait gives Peng Shuri the data he needs to assess the threat. By comparing this scan with future scans, he can calculate how fast the Buddha is eroding.
I believe we now have the knowledge needed to look after this historic national treasure. And I'm confident we can safeguard it for many generations to come.
The scans also solved a mystery from the past. Ancient texts say that when the Buddha was new, it was painted with brilliant colors and covered with gold. Small holes on the Buddha's chest and arms hint this story may be true.
We speculate that these holes help attach coverings such as gold or paint.
But proof wasn't possible until now. The micro detail of the virtual Buddha completes the picture. Haitong's Buddha was covered in plaster, a foundation for paint and gold, an engineering masterpiece and a testament to the power of faith.
The Leshan Buddha embodies the pinnacle of Buddhism in China.
Haitong never lived to know it, but his Buddha also achieved his ultimate goal of taming the river and saving lives.
After the Buddha was built, a lot of rock from the mountain was dumped into the river, which lowered the depths of the river, slowed down the water, and reduced the number of boat accidents. The original purpose of building the Buddha was therefore achieved by chance. Even now, we still think it was an amazing thing to do. We have total respect for Master Haitong and the people who carved this incredible sculpture 1,300 years ago.
After 1,300 years, the Leshan Buddha's serene gaze and awesome dimensions still welcome and astonish all those who come to wonder, to ponder, and to pray, offering insight and hope to so many as they navigate the treacherous waters of this world. While millions marvel, the hard work goes on, revealing mysteries, battling remorseless threats, ensuring that this sacred man-made marvel survives for another millennium and beyond.